interested, does anyone have any examples of audiences taking advantage of full refund policies? Either put something in the chat or stick your hand up or something, or just leap in.
You mean as in taking the piss, Heather?
Yes.
Right.
Because it's a concern that we had in our, certainly in our group. It's, both colleagues and us are concerned that audiences are going to take this, as you so beautifully put it.
Heather, I could jump in there because this is actually something that we discussed ourselves, myself and Katie and Maria and Vlaka as well. So if anyone from our group wants to jump in, but just an example, that I shared was when we were speaking about this kind of fear that people would just come and demand refunds, and they would, using Katie's terminology, take the piss with generosity of these organizations. Is we have seen this before previously, of course, and like not to this extent and not to this heightened climate, but in terms of some of the customers that we work with, the TicketSolve in the UK, a lot of them have accessibility schemes in place where they might offer a free ticket to a carer, or if they require maybe additional support in terms of accessibility, getting to their seat, a free ticket is there. And some of our customers have come to us over the past asking, how do we ensure, without saying to someone, please, can I see your credentials for being, entitled to this free ticket? Can you show me proof of evidence? Of course, asking for something like that only creates a bad taste in the mouths of our audiences. And like all that we could kind of come back in terms of reassurances, you really have to trust the goodwill of your audience members here. You have to trust that they're coming to you because order, they tend to arrive with their heart in their hand rather than kind of their purse in their pocket. Did dig deep into this. Of course, there's going to be some audience members who push the boat and who do break through the limit and get their free ticket. But more so than not, audience members won't try and exploit from you anything that they're entitled to. And I think, again, it goes back to that clear communications around kind of like showing exactly what you offer them, the positive impact that you have on society, and why actually everything that they're spending with you only just causes, like a more positive impact into their lives, the lives of the community, younger, more vulnerable citizens, and so on.
There was actually somebody in our group who said they used the TicketSolve ticket converter thing. So when they cancelled the shows, and people had the option of donating the money or a credit note or a refund, and most people chose the credit note. So they weren't choosing the refund, even though it was there. So I think that's really reassuring that, if you do this, people aren't necessarily just going to choose the refund.
Well, I was the Abbey box office manager when we first closed down in 2020, and the stats that we pulled, we cancelled a very large season. I think there was about maybe 7 or 8 productions all cancelled, and it came down almost completely 50-50 people who chose refund and credit.
We had an interesting situation in Triskel because one of the first shows that we used the ticket exchange tool on was a venue hire. And we found that the majority of people there went for a refund. But then later on, when we went through the second lockdown and we had to use the ticket exchange tool again, it was for our shows, it was for classical music concerts that were ours. And the vast majority of those people chose to reschedule or voucher or donation as well. So it was interesting to see that our audience were very keen to support us, but somebody who was coming literally for the group that booked the venue, they didn't care about us. They weren't that interested in supporting us.
So it doesn't look like there's a huge amount of evidence to suggest that if you did have quite a generous refund or exchange policy, that would backfire upon you from what people are saying. Does anybody want to disagree with me? So you can.
I think it's also true, Katie, that most people are operating depending on the customer or the patron that contacts them. They're operating with the maximum flexibility. in the personal situation when they're in conversation with people, or whether it's online. It's just that isn't reflected in the policy, or that it's not embodied in the policy. But
so that gives you the kind of worst of all worlds, in that you're being really generous, but actually you can't use that as a selling point and a reassurance.
There's almost that, yeah. I don't think there's anybody in our group that if they were approached by somebody outside of the timeline, or outside of the 48 hours or 24 hours or whatever, that didn't receive a refund if they wanted one.
Well, we need to make a virtue of that, surely.
Yeah, Lucy's got an example, and I think you've got that on a slide, haven't you? Can you just
Irma, you might be able to pull that up. This is just something that I received in my inbox during this week, and I'll be honest, it's from it's a very typical, like, I'd say everyone here can picture what type of an email this came from. It is your traditional marketing season's just launched, block after block about upcoming shows, lots of news, lots of excitement. But right bang in the middle of the email was actually this reassurance, and it was prominent. It took up a box by itself, and I just thought it was something that was, particularly topical for the conversation that we're having. So this example comes from Ipswich Theatre, which is a Ticket Solve customer over in the UK. And they fully disclose their full refund policy. But what I thought was really interesting was it's kind of one of the first examples that I've seen where it's very much up front and center in their big communications going out. So this would have been like the big launch of their next season coming from September.
I think that word promise is so powerful, isn't it?
Yeah. It kind of makes me think about kind of Gillian's comment about, like the support that she's received at Triskel, and she's really been able to identify that, it's more than just attending a venue, it's a relationship there as well. So I think, using these strong words are something that seemed to be working quite well for Ipswich in particular.
Yeah, thank you, Irma. That's lovely. Thank you for showing that.
Can I ask Lucy on that one? It's quite interesting. It's only promising to refund or give a credit note if the show is cancelled or postponed, not if the member of the public can't attend because of their personal situation. So they're making a virtue out of one aspect of.
Yeah, so that's a really important point, because it's led me to think about something else there, Annette, is in their particular refund policy here, it's for cancelled or postponed shows. However, Ipswich also offer their customers what they call like booking insurance. We've seen a lot of theatres and arenas use this, particularly in the UK, Booking Protect, that ticket insurance, where if on the day or 24 hours, 48 hours up until you're due to attend a performance or a concert and you test positive on COVID, because you've essentially claimed that insurance, you're entitled to a full refund on the cost of the ticket, the booking fee, and also the cost of the insurance itself as well. So, I mean, I'm not sure if that's something that might work into the conversation that we're going to be having later around kind of putting together a campaign and just that further reassurance. But it is interesting that they've taken the approach. They've kind of split it into two reasons. If you're coming, but we can't, nearly fulfill the offering that we're promising to you, here's the refund promise. However, if you are concerned about, your own health and safety, or, the potential risk of catching COVID in between, here's a £1.50 insurance, and it covers, that kind of those worries and concerns around up until the day.
And actually, those ticket insurance policies cover a lot more than just COVID as well. So a lot of them will cover if you're ill for any reason, or, if train breaks down, or what, if you can't get there for lots of people. You have to, they're all slightly different. So you have to kind of look at them. Some of them are more generous than others.
Can you take the slide down for us, pretty please? Cool. Does anyone have technical problems about giving refunds? Sounds brilliant. Yeah, I'm sorry, I've got a keyboard issue. where my keyboard is flashing onto the mute button and muting and unmuting me at random, which is great. It's because my cat skidded across my keyboard a few days ago and shower of keys, and it's obviously damaged the touchpad as well. So I'm very sorry. Right, shall we move on, Katie? Shall we talk about the next reassurance, which is social reassurance?
Great. Okay, so those of you who were at the Peacock last week will remember that we talked a little bit about one thing that seems to have come out of the research is that some people are worried about whether they're going to have a good time, you know, and for a lot of people, the rituals around going to a theatre or an arts performance are as important as what's on stage. So the meeting up with friends, the having a drink beforehand, all the kind of, you know, for my kids, it's buying the sweets and the popcorn before we go in, all of those things. And we know, as Heather said, that people are wanting to spend more time with friends and family who they haven't seen for a long time. So to what extent is going to the theatre going to give them that opportunity? Because obviously they can't talk during the performance, so they're going to need to arrive early, or they're going to be able to have a chat in the interval or whatever. So I suppose it's about what reassurances can we give to people that it's not going to be over sanitized and just a really horrible experience that, you know, isn't very nice and cozy and lovely for them. But secondly, that they can safely have those social interactions that are so much part of enjoying it. And I suppose for me, it's things like also what kind of positive reinforcement we can take from when they have gone and they've had a great time. How do we make sure that they then realize that that's, you know, they capture that and they share that with their friends and all those sorts of things. So I think, we've got another poll, I think. Should we do another poll, Heather? Okay, here we go. So if you had to rate the social experience of attending a performance in your venue and thinking about the social experience as in everything that's not on the stage, so not the artistic experience, but the social experience, if you're being really honest, which of these would you say your venue experience or festival experience is at the moment? How many have we had?
23 people have voted so far.
Okay, another couple of minutes. Come on, press the button.
Nobody will know what you said.
We can't see what you've put.
No, can't see what you say. 27.
Okay. Right, should we call it there?
Yeah, I'll share the result now.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Okay, yeah. So 2/3 are saying it's okay. 7% saying it's not very good, but they're coming because they love us. And then about a quarter saying it's pretty good. Okay, Heather, what do you make of that? Oh, Kat's got your keyboard again.
I think if I move my cursor away from the button, it'll stop doing it. So I'm going to put my cursor way up there. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? What worries me about it's okay or they put up with an inferior experience is that when I do focus groups or when I do interviews with audience members, it's amazing because they have these really, really vivid memories of the experience. So, you know, I'm just thinking of one I did the other day. They could remember that they had cocktails with their friends before they went. They could remember they got there by taxi. They had a meal afterwards. She knew exactly who she went with, which was a gaggle of friends. She remembers standing on the stairs and looking down at the program but she could not remember the name of the show. She could remember amazing moments, but she couldn't remember the name of the show. So I think we underestimate how important this social experience it is. And, you know, shows with no interval, audiences say in focus groups, they hate them, not because they want to go and get drunk in the theatre bar, art centre bar, but because actually what they want to do is share what they think and hear what their friends or family think, you know, about what they've just seen, so they can process it. So yeah, I think it's interesting, because we all think it's about the show, but it's not. It's about the experience of the whole thing, and it's very much a social one. So I think it'd be really interesting to see if we can improve that experience. You know, what are the blocks? Can we improve it? Katie, should we have another breakout group?
Yeah. So I think it's what we can do to improve it, but I think it's also talking about how we can tell people or show people visually or whatever, all of those things that we're able to do. So we might be brilliant at it, but do they know, and have they seen that? So I think it's partly about what we can do for the experience, and partly about the marketing and the, you know, the sharing of and communicating that experience. So if you can think about those two things in your breakout groups, that would be brilliant.
Can you this time appoint a note taker, so that at the end use the chat and then copy and post it in the main chat when you come back into the main group? Because it was really interesting seeing the comments. So could we do that formally? So could each group put their, say, 3 key points, 3 key issues into the chat at the end, in the main chat when you come back? That'd be great. Let's hurl you into groups.